Welcome to 50 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David A. Fields. Hello, David.
Hi, Maria Isabel. We caught you napping. We caught you
I
distracted.
know, it's a micro nap. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the space where we answer your questions about growing and creating delight in your consulting firm and through your consulting firm. If you're familiar with the format, we actually answer your questions, we answer your comments. We welcome comments and questions from those who are live in the session. And it always brings us great pleasure to be able to apply what we know from working with over 400 firms now into the daily lives of those who join us. So having said all that, Deidre, can you please pose the first question that we have today? All right, David, this question is for you. I've decided. Okay. Question from Sylvia. Is there a way to be right side up with an RFP? We're responding to an RFP, and I think we have the inside track, but the questions are very technical, so I don't see how to make the answers right side up. It's a government contract, so it's all arm's length. Okay, David, what do you think?
Government RFP, not my favorite. Interesting that she thinks they have the inside track, and yet it's arm's length. So this is a tough one. So I'll give you some thoughts. And by the way, I'd be interested for those who are listening and maybe those who come watch it on replay, how much of your business comes from our RFP. Our general rule on RFPs is if you didn't help write the RFP, you're not likely to win the RFP. Right. Because there's always an outsider that helps put it together. So maybe she's the outsider that has put it together.
Sounds like it.
It's clearly more difficult to be fully right side up in your proposal when you're working within the constraints of an RFP. But it is possible. So I mean, it's just more difficult. All of your language inside an RFP, even the technical language, can be right side up language. You can make it about them. In order for you to achieve your goal, in order for you to hit this benchmark, or this is where you will need to be. So you make it about them as opposed to about you. Also, most RFPs have some sort of introduction section, some sort of place where you write a paragraph about yourself or your firm or whatever, but just at the very top. And you can introduce it using right side up language. So I would say that's kind of where you start. Depending on how it's structured, also in many RFPs, you can give alternatives. Sometimes you have to submit more than one response to the RFP. And giving alternatives sets you apart, but also allows you to be right side up by saying, you asked for this, and this alternative helps you achieve that even more by, such and so. And since most other firms are only going to say that, here's the one thing and here's what's best about us, you'll be pretty different. That's what I got off the top of my head. What do you have, Maria Isabel?
I'm in complete agreement with you. I think as it relates to alternatives, and as far as we know with clients, there are certain government entities that very explicitly prohibit submitting what could be interpreted as multiple proposals. So read that kind of with a magnifying glass, be very careful about it, make sure that the alternatives are doing you a favor and not taking you out of contention. Having said that, I also think in most RFPs, there's this request to explain your methodology. And there's the risk that you will make your RFP response all about the methodology, which is what folks tend to do. So make sure you highlight value and you highlight the impact of the project, which is part of what you just described, David, of being right side up, but be very explicit about where does the project bring value, or what's your understanding of what the impact is going to be, either immediate or downstream. Don't get lost in just submitting a how to addressing step by step what the RFP request includes. So
Yeah,
those are my 2 cents.
The whole RFP thing is so interesting. It's a little triggering because it can often indicate a combination of a lack of maturity in terms of buying approach, because an RFP isn't a sophisticated way to buy. It gives the appearance of being sophisticated. It indicates a lack of trust, and a lack of willingness to partner. And so I think that in your response, you need to build those back in where you can. The sense of partnership and collaboration, and helping them sort of transcend a purely transactional approach. Had some thoughts. I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know if we don't. It's quiet here today, which happens some weeks. But if you're out there, let us know if that's helpful or not helpful, and whether RFPs apply or don't apply, and if you have any other question. And Deidre, since Maria Isabel may be first, let's see what you have in your magic bag for her. What's the next question? All right. Jeff says, I have a general strategy consulting firm. Okay, good for you. Ex-BCG, about $3 million a year. Okay, that's nice. Respectable, first rung in the boutique ladder. I want to increase our visibility, and some people have been talking about SEO. Is that something I should invest in? What about PPC advertising? So that's pay-per-click. What about PPC advertising or improving my website? All right, Maria Isabel, $3 million boutique, a nice kind of starter boutique firm. Should Jeff invest in SEO and PPC and work on his website? What do you think?
Well, first of all, Jeff, congratulations on building a $3 million boutique. Yep. It's not easy. So congrats for you, right? There's an element that you share, that is that you are in a strategy consulting firm. And if you've been listening to us enough to submit a question, we would want you to be a lot more specialized than that.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're going to start tying marketing dollars to kind of creating visibility for your firm. So that's kind of a first thought right off the top of my mind. The second thought is really, who are your buyers? And I think in our world, from what we see and what we understand, strategy consulting buyers are seldomly like Googling or Googling, whatever the right pronunciation of the verb form of Google
Googling.
Is. Thank you. Right. They're hardly looking on Google for who they want as a trusted advisor to design their strategy. So take investments with a grain of salt. We've seen SEO work really well for folks who ultimately want to reach an individual buyer, or who know an individual can become a strong influencer with like decision-making power, right? So where it helps build that trust pillar, that it's so fundamental, then SEO makes more sense. You also talked about your website. So we have IP around that. We call it Do, Think, Feel framework. And if you read through the book that you, David, wrote, right, there's a downloadable extra asset, that one, exactly, or that one somewhere, right? There's a downloadable asset that talks about Do, Think, Feel. So when thinking about your website, what you want to say, make it consistent with your thinking, make the look and feel consistent with the spirit and the personality of your firm, but also think about what you want people to do when they get there, what do you want people to think when they get to your website, and how do you want them to feel? And that's perhaps worth an investment, depending on how broad the gap is. What would you advise Jeff, David?
Something about you said. So I agree with what you said, and I have some thoughts. In terms of the website, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. We have seen that a bad website can prevent you from getting business. A good website won't get you business, but a bad website will halt leads in their tracks. So you want to make sure you're at least not turning away business. SEO is really interesting. I was thinking about what you were saying as you were saying it. And for a strategy firm, I 100% agree. Someone who's general strategy, you don't get business that way. What happens is the SEO companies want you to write stuff, articles that's built around keywords. And that in itself won't get you business. On the other hand, we have had clients that have written very good content, and that content naturally gets SEO or can be tweaked for SEO, but it's good content, and that content can attract leads. So I wouldn't do SEO. I certainly wouldn't put it top of the list. I wouldn't do it for its own sake. But if you have the right content and if you're specialized, I think it could be part of the mix. For a $3 million firm, maybe. Yeah, outright start. That was my thought. So again, we'll comments from people, and Dan, good on you for getting a B+ on your recent RFP. That's outstanding.
All right.
Can we try and do one more?
I think we have time for one more question, perhaps.
All right.
So this one's for you. Over the past few weeks, had success pitching a project using your approach. It's all gone very well, but then the prospect went silent and they're not responding to emails. How do we push it across the finish line? And this is from Evan. What would you say to Evan?
Okay. I'd say don't use the word pitch.
Right.
So our process doesn't talk about pitching, but that's okay. I get the spirit. I have a guess on what happened just based on the note here. I'm guessing you didn't set the next meeting, so I could be wrong on that. You might have, but a lot of cases when a client has gone silent, you didn't actually, in your most recent conversation, you did not set a specific date and time. You did not calendar your next call. And so for any of you listening, it's probably like the easiest change you can make that'll have the greatest impact on your ability to win business. Make sure that next call is on the calendar. So that'd be my guess. The other things just coming out of that, Maria Isabel, because it doesn't sound like it's been a long time. So part of it may be just some patience. If it's only been a couple of weeks, clients have other things going on. So don't make it about you, that they're rejecting you. They've gone dark for me. I don't know. Maybe they're on vacation, or maybe they just have other things going on. So give it a couple of weeks. But then after a reasonable amount of time, you can reconnect and ask them, how do we shake this loose, right? How do we get from what seemed like a good conversation to a closed project where we're helping you solve your challenges? That's my initial thoughts. Add on to that, Maria Isabel.
There's a great article you wrote, and that we know has had a lot of positive impact. And it's a ghosting sequence, right? Where you outline emails 1 through 7.
5 or 7, right?
Right. That one's worth reading the comments on, because there's variations in how to close that sequence that are also very powerful. That's a tool Evan also has. If he determines, look, this person has actually ghosted me, meaning after they gave them time, they're still not surfacing, then activate that ghosting sequence.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good advice. I think that's a good addition. And there were some excellent thoughts from people who wrote comments on that article.
All right.
That was good. Those were 3 really good questions. So if you're listening, submit your question. If you're on replay, submit your question. These are just excellent kind of questions, and we love answering them. As Deidre put up there, if you are not receiving the weekly articles, so you're like, what article, David? Why, what's Maria Isabel talking about? Go to davidafields.com and subscribe. You should especially sign up for this week, because I like this week's article that's coming out. So do that. Also, if you don't have Monday Live in your calendar, just set it for every Monday at 12:10 Eastern, or whatever it is, your time zone, because that gets you here with us, and we want to see you and we want to hear from you. So do that. I think that's it. Really appreciate you being here. Have a fabulous week. Remember, consulting is it's about them. It's about your clients. It's about your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And we'll see you back here next week.
Looking forward to it. Ciao. Thank you.
Take care.